Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Halo. Here, let me go ahead and kill the music and fix the game audio. Now, one thing that I wanted to share with you guys today before we jump into things is my career in Halo has been glitched for the longest time. People call me a hacker for this. Yeah, so right now on PC it's even more messed up. So right now it's not showing any of my achievements on PC, but I've got like almost 60% of the achievements, I want to say. If I were to pull it up on Xbox, medals are all okay, but the titles, here we go. This is where things start getting interesting, and these are pretty accurate, because if I were to pull this up on Xbox, it would show me the same thing. So my matchmaking, it's like, okay, good, about 32 hours, custom games that I've hardly even touched. A campaign, look at the total time played. Somehow it says that I've played for 2,395 days, 71,616 hours, and what is that? Almost 4.3 million minutes. I don't know why it's always been glitched like that, but it's insane. I've had so many times where I've hopped online and people have been like, "Oh, this kid's a fucking hacker. Report him! Report him!" That's one of the reasons why I don't hop on Halo multiplayer anymore. Not just that, but because it's full of just nothing but guys like me who grew up playing it. And so they're sweaty. The sweatiest of gamers. Alright, let's go ahead and jump in. My question of the day for you guys is, what are your guys' thoughts on the rankings that we're going to be going over today? Let me know down below if you guys agree with my thoughts, or if you think I'm full of it. Yeah, we're going to be ranking all the vehicles, enemies, etc. Let me restart the mission so we can get the cutscene. Aside from when they show it near the broadsword, but that doesn't give much reference.
Approaching the Didact ship in 200 kilometers. Once we get on board, we'll find the bridge.
He's on the move again.
The fighter's shields aren't rated for slip space.
No, but the Didacts are.
I think it's fitting by starting with the vehicle rankings. The question is, do we start at the bottom of the tier list, or do we start at the top? Alright. I'm gonna start at the bottom. Alright, automatic F tier. Mongoose. When are you ever gonna use that in this game? Like, there's no point. Every time you have the chance to use one, you always have a chance to use, like, a Warthog or a Ghost or something like that. There's always something better. So automatic F tier. If they had the Gun Goose, it would be slightly different. And speaking of flying vehicles, like what we're flying, I would say the Banshee is in D tier. My thoughts on that one is they just made it so much weaker. When Halo 4 and the rest of Halo was acquired by 343, I feel like they nerfed the crap out of Banshee. I think probably for the better, because the Banshee was pretty OP, and there were plenty of times to where it was annoying, like in multiplayer. Because you'd have those guys that just got good at using the Banshee, like way too good because they spent all their time in it. And that was annoying. Even in campaign, like when we were going through and we've used the Banshee, it felt pretty squishy. Let's see, alongside, ooh, trying to dodge while talking. Right next to it, I would probably throw the Mammoth. You only run into it in that one mission. It's only really relevant for the story. You can't control it like you would the Elephant in Halo 3. It's a cool addition, and it makes sense. But as the overall gameplay, it doesn't really add much. That mission, honestly, could have been condensed if the Mammoth wasn't constantly stopping. Here we go. Again, I think it's a cool concept. It's just not really used at all. I think it would have been cool if they incorporated it somehow in multiplayer. Like, you and the enemy team have to try and fight to take control of the Mammoth as it moves around the map. And the longer you have control over it, the more points you get. Something like that. That'd be kind of cool. See, C tier, I would throw the Pelican. Granted, it was nice being able to fly the Pelican for once, like, because we've never been able to do that before. But how limiting that mission was. You couldn't really fly around a whole lot without either running into death barriers or just nothing to do. There was like not really anything to explore on that level. But I think it was still pretty cool. It also was nice because it helped resupply you, and also if you end up playing on co-op, flying around in the Pelican is so dope. Because you have a guy on the top turret, which is just a cannon, and then you've got the side turrets that are machine guns, so you can load up with a full squad of homies. So, I think it was cool that they incorporated that. That's why I'm giving it a C tier, because it was a cool idea, but it's just not really used to its fullest. I'd throw the Wraith in C tier as well, although for different reasons. You see the Wraith a lot more, but kind of like how I've rated it in previous Halos, because of the lobbing effect of the shots, and it doesn't do a lot of direct damage, it loses out over ones like the Scorpion, or even ones like the Goshawk. In multiplayer, if there's no gunner manning the machine gun in the Wraith, and you're a good enough player, you can easily hijack it. So I gotta give that one a C tier. Especially in campaign, it's like obviously so much easier to take out than in multiplayer. Although I'm not gonna lie, the raids could get annoying at times in multiplayer. I mean, not multiplayer, but campaign. Especially on the higher difficulties when they up the detection range of when they can spot you.
Only one gun left.
Copy, Cortana. Weapons. Prepare firing solution. We promised to get the chief inside that ship, and I'm not about to let that man down.
Let's do it. See, starting out B tier, I would throw the Ghost. The Ghost is always a good choice, especially if you're running solo.
That's the last one. Infinity, you're clear.
Roger that, Chief. You might want to back up a little. Main battery, fire!
Clean hit. We're proceeding to insertion.
Acknowledged. We'll be on station if you need us. Make sure you give the Didact our regards. Infinity out.
Chief, look out! I don't think this is going to end well!
every plane or flying vehicle that Chief hops into always crashes. Prove me wrong.
Now what do we do?
Plan B.
I can honestly make a list of all the ships that he's been on that have crashed. Let's see. We've got like the Pillar of Autumn, the Forward Unto Dawn, In Amber Clad.
I know.
Just name some of the big starships.
We'll have to deploy the warhead manually. How and where?
I always know what to do. I always know what to do. Just give me a second.
Keep scanning for the composer. We'll figure it out on the way.
So, continuing on our tier list, we were talking about the Ghost. I gotta give it a C tier. Honestly. I mean, B tier, my bad. Because granted, it's a good vehicle, especially if you're running on campaign and you're running solo. But in multiplayer, it is cheap. Is it kind of what I was mentioning earlier, to around the time that 343 acquired Halo, they did make a few other tweaks to some things. Like, the Ghost feels too much. Oh my gosh, I thought I killed you. Feels too much like you can just go around running people over and do nothing but that nowadays. It's really annoying. Like, if you've got a guy on your team, especially if they, like, if you've got a guy on your team that's just going around running people over, either one, they suck at it, and all they're doing is just looking like a total idiot, usually just wasting the vehicle too, or they're just pissing everyone off because they're running everyone over, usually including some teammates. 'Cause 9 times out of 10, I swear, those guys usually end up accidentally running over teammates as well. Namely me.
Where reason does not stop, perhaps force can at least be made.
Right next to the Ghost, I would throw the Warthog, the standard Warthog. Standard Warthog is classic. But the downside is that I think it was Halo 5 that introduced it, or was it Infinite? I'm not too sure off the top of my head. But they added the ability to hop out of any seat and then just hop directly into like either the driver's seat or the gunner seat by pressing A. That was a nice addition. But Halo 4 didn't have that, sadly. Just going off of the merits of the Hog in Halo 4, though, I would say it's an all-around good vehicle, but I give it B tier because of how quickly the chain gun overheats. The chain gun, it just overheats way too easy. Also, sorry if we're kind of going through this a little quickly, the tier list. It's just because we've got so much to cover. The broadsword that we flew in a minute ago, I would give it a solid A tier. The thing is so fun to fly. And it reminds me, oh my gosh, I can't kill these guys. It reminds me so much of Halo Reach. Granted, it doesn't have as much, like, freedom to roam around as the mission in Halo Reach when you fly the Saber, I believe it's called. Yeah, it's called the Saber in Halo Reach. It's still pretty cool, though, flying around the Didact ship. This terminal here, I'm just kind of keeping an eye out. Also looking for ammo. There we go. I just wish, honestly, that we could fly around that broadsword more. That's my only complaint about it. That, and that they didn't keep a jet-like aerial vehicle in Halo. I think it would be really sick to fly one of those around in multiplayer. The Wasp is okay, like adding that, but it's too weak and too cheap at times. Kinda like the Banshee.
My dear husband, I know your crimes. and I have found forgiveness. I know your reasons. I understand them. I know you. Perhaps better than you could ever hope to know yourself. I ask you, forgive my transgressions. Like yourself, all I have done I have done for the greater good. Our time as the galaxy's caretakers is past. The Flood have overrun us. In the days to come, the Halo rings will fire, eradicating the Flood and all other life for a time. I have worked hard to index all species in known space. When the time comes, these indexes will open, and once more the galaxy will breathe and grow. Blood will pump, life will claw its way out of the oceans and through the mud. Babes will be born and grow old under the warmth of 1,000 suns. Civilizations will rise in our stead, and our job as caretakers will at last bear fruit. Until then, I leave you here, my love. The only living thing in this galaxy, sealed safely away. Spend these ages ahead of you in meditation on your choices. When you wake, you will find the humans. I have ensured that they will grow strong and vibrant. They will be our rightful heirs. Their gene plan dictates that the galaxy will be theirs to care for by then. I beg of you, find the strength to help them learn from our mistakes. And my husband, let them teach you as well. Please.
Holy shit, that was epic. Oh yeah. I love these terminals. Just how much work they put into them.
Trying to access something it's calling the domain.
You said that before.
Data repository of some kind, though I'm only able to extract bits and pieces of the complete exchange. I'll log it for investigation later.
Right next to the broadsword, I would throw the mantis in A tier. I know I'm gonna get hate for that one. But I don't think the mantis is as good as, say, the scorpion. I'm honestly surprised as well that they took that one out of all the vehicles that they took out of Halo. Although I kind of understand. Because it's another one of those weapons that if you became really good at it in multiplayer, you could just be really, really cheap with it. But I like that it added a nice variety. Normally when it comes to heavy vehicles, we've only really had the Scorpion and the Wraith, both of which are just tanks. Now, I'm not complaining, I like my tanks. But the Mantis adds a nice little variety. The fact that you can also teabag with it is just, mwah, just amazing. Sadly though, alongside with how cheap it can be in multiplayer, I would also say that the cooldown on its weapons is pretty ridiculous. It's got some of the slowest cooldown on any vehicle weapons in Halo, I swear.
I detected an energy signature ahead. I think it's a transit system like on Requiem.
Also, you virtually never use the foot stomp. Along similar lines to the tanks, I'm gonna start out S tier with the
I'll try to
Scorpion.
route us to the composer. Put me in the system.
Ooh, this area looks cool. Whoa. That worried me for a minute. Scorpion is OP. Tank beats everything. No need to really elaborate on the Scorpion much, but one that I would throw alongside it in S tier is the Gauss Hog. That one's definitely underrated. I'm so salty that they've taken it out of Halo. I've mentioned that almost every video at this point, I feel like. The Gauss Hog is just underrated. And in Halo 4, it felt perfect. Perfect. It felt super balanced. It wasn't as OP as it was in, like, Halo 2. It just felt good to use the Gauss Hog in Halo 4. And whenever I would get the chance to get one of them, definitely worth it. Out of all the hogs to grab. Ooh, binary rifle or the saw. I think I'll keep my saw. Which actually is a good way to start out our tier list on weapons. S tier for saw. Saw's another thing that they took out of Halo that I'm salty about. So much alliteration there with the S's. I don't know why people didn't like the saw. I know a lot of people didn't care for it. I feel like the saw is underrated. And when you just carefully work the trigger, even in like Halo 5, you just carefully work that trigger, and you've got yourself a nice, devastating weapon. And it feels right. It feels like a good addition to Halo. Because when it comes to the machine guns in the game, there's a huge gap between the assault rifle and the turret. There's a huge gap between those. So adding kind of like a more man-portable, intermediate machine gun just feels right. Especially considering how, even in our current world, we have machine guns like these. Ah! I got sniped. Point blank, too. Damn it. Come on, peek your head out. You got him. Yes. Whew. Need to take cover, grab ammo, heal up. The usual. Those pulse grenades are useless. We'll get to those on our tier list in just a split second as soon as I kill this knight. There we go. Alright. I don't really have too many other weapons in S tier. I would normally throw the battle rifle like I did in previous Halos, but I had to do a lot of thinking. And it doesn't feel like it does as much damage. It doesn't feel like the battle rifle in Halo 4 does as much damage. One thing I do like about it, though, is the change to the scope. How they kind of made it a bit more square. It looks pretty cool. Yes, killed him. So, the battle rifle just barely squeaks it out of S tier and throws, I would throw it down into A tier. Right below that, I would throw the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle in Halo 4, I think is probably pretty close to being like the best sniper rifle in Halo. No, we took each other out. Dang it. No, sniper rifle in Halo 4, honestly, the addition of weapon bloom is nice. Oh my gosh, this sniper. The addition of weapon bloom makes things a lot more fair, but it's not over the top, the weapon bloom. it's not as pronounced as, like, Halo 5 had a pretty bad weapon bloom. Die. Yes, I got him. Also, just the sound of it in Halo 4, the sniper rifle, they did a good job on the sound design for the sniper rifle. Compared to some of the other weapons, like, oh. I think also the Promethean weapons had killer sound design. But I'll talk more on them in just one moment. Let me actually... Let me trade out the saw. Actually... do this. Where's he at? Peek. Oh, I missed. Yes, I got him. Barely, though. Here, I'm gonna use up the rest of my saw. Right below the sniper rifle and the battle rifle, I'd have to throw the shotgun. They did nerf the shotgun a little bit between Halos, I would say 3 and 4. Yeah, between Halo 3 and 4, they did nerf the shotgun a little bit, so it's not as overpowered. But it's still really nice, especially when you play like Infection. Like if you played Halo 4 Infection back in the day, you went around with a shotgun, it felt so good. I think I'll actually take a battle rifle. Ooh, free assassination. Oops, I accidentally canceled it. Come here, crawlers. Ha. Now, the sword also gets A tier, but I think it gets right below the shotgun. I generally prefer the shotgun over the sword when it comes to close quarters weapons. I think that one's more debatable. That one just personally, like, goes down to personal preference. Which one you guys think is a little bit better between those two, as to which one belongs higher on the A list, on the A tier list. Come on, die already. There we go. Might as well take him out. Now, B tier and C tier are just full of weapons. The assault rifle, we're gonna have to rapid fire through the next two tiers just because of how many freaking weapons there are. So, we've got the assault rifle to start out with. It feels almost like they took the one from Reach and dropped the accuracy a little bit. So it's kind of more similar. It's like a cross between the one in Reach and the one from Halo 1. The one in Halo 1 could spit lead, but the one in Reach could really get good accurate shots. Oh my gosh, die already. There we go. I have like no ammo though. So I would say the assault rifle in Halo 4 gets a good B tier for me. Like, it's a good solid weapon. One thing I used to love to do, speaking of the assault rifle while I was holding that battle rifle, is back in the day, my multiplayer class, my favorite setup would be combining the battle rifle and assault rifle in multiplayer, because I would use the assault rifle at close quarters to take out their shields, and then pop them in the head with my battle rifle. The next one, the Magnum. They really buffed the Magnum and made it really nice and accurate in Halo 4.
Where are you?
The Didact's blocking the
It feels like
composer
it's a
from
little weaker, like, shot for shot than the one in Halo 3, but overall they made it... Oh my gosh, I got laid out immediately. But overall they made it way more accurate.
Where are you?
And it just feels good to use the Magnum in Halo 4. Especially when you melee with it. Pistol whipping fools with it is pretty dope. Damn it, I got sniped again. Do I have any rounds for mine? I don't. Crap.
Didact's blocking the composer from me.
Peek your head back out, come on. Yeah! Got him. Especially before he could deploy his Watcher. I would throw the railgun as well in B tier. That's a weapon that I'm surprised that they got rid of. Railgun is pretty fun. It's another one of those weapons that just made sense to add. But it was pretty dirty at times when you were playing multiplayer. If you got good at the railgun, you could blast some fools clear across the map and one-shot them. Which was even dirtier than just sniping them across the map. Because the weapon sway was virtually non-existent for it. For the railgun. And if you get him just right across the map, you can get him in one shot instead of the 2 or 3 that sometimes are taken with sniper rifles. But you can virtually carry hardly any ammo for the railgun. If I remember right, the maximum amount of rounds that you can carry for the stupid thing is like 6 or 7. Maybe 8. I can't remember the exact number, but either way, it's pretty low. It's a pretty low number. So that's kind of why I have to give it B tier, and not A tier. Otherwise, I totally would. Let's see. Frag grenades. Frag grenades, B tier. This is the first nade on our tier list. Although, out of all of them, frag grenades definitely have the highest rating. I think in previous tier lists, I've ranked the frag grenade closer to A tier, but in Halo 4, it doesn't do as much damage, but it's still a good time-honored classic. Being able to throw a frag around the corner. And as I said a minute ago, it's still my favorite out of all the grenades. Next up in B tier, I would throw the plasma pistol. I miss the ability to shock vehicles. I think it's dumb that they added the shock rifle and gave it that ability. They should have, in Halo Infinite, they should have just kept the ability of the plasma pistol to stun, because it actually gave much more use to using the plasma pistol. Because aside from the noob combo, it's useless nowadays in Halo. But in Halo 4, plasma pistol felt right. Like, you could still stun vehicles like you would in previous Halos, but the tracking wasn't as crazy as, say, like Halo 3. The tracking on things in Halo 3 was crazy. Like needles or, what else? The plasma pistol's charge shot. Which, speaking of the needler, that's the next one I would throw in B tier. Needler's an all-time classic, but they nerfed the tracking in Halo 4 for it. But it feels like you can carry more ammo for it, so that's kind of a plus. Damn it. There's so many of them. So yeah, Needler gets a good B tier for Halo 4. I would also throw the scatter shot. I gave the shotgun an A tier, but the scatter shot would get a B tier. It is nice that you can ricochet your shots with it around the corners. That is pretty cool. I love that ability. And it's kind of cool that the heat wave in Halo Infinite resembles that to a degree. Like a cross between the scatter shot and the plasma cutter from Dead Space. But the scatter shot was so dope back in Halo 4. Especially from a style point of view. It looks good. It looks like a super futuristic shotgun. My biggest complaint with the scatter shot, though, would have to be the amount of damage that it does. Unless if you're like super close, the spread is so wide, and each individual pellet doesn't do much damage. So you have to get real close for it to be effective.
Our momentum should carry us through the low gravity.
But overall, the scatter shot's pretty decent. Another Promethean weapon to end off B tier would be the binary rifle.
Chief,
I'll go over that one in a moment.
Head is primed.
The window for getting out of here is going to be pretty slim.
I know.
So you come at last.
Activity! Significant slip space event building under the composer.
He's powering it out.
I just had to take a second there. That flying scene looks really nice. I love Forerunner architecture. I think I did a whole video on like how underappreciated it is. Yeah, it was like earlier in our campaign. Let's see, scatter shot. We were just talking about those. Suppressors. More light rifle. Ah, the binary rifle. Perfect, I needed ammo for that. And I was just about to talk about it. Binary rifle is going to be my last entry into B tier. It's super cool how it can get... It just does a stupid amount of damage. It does a stupid amount of damage. But I give it B tier, though, not only because it only holds 2 freaking rounds per clip, which I think is generally fair. The more egregious part is how little ammo you hold in store. And then the other reason why I would give it B tier is when you're aiming down sights. You can't see it when you're using it, but if someone was standing next to me and we were recording, when I look down my sights, you will see a long laser trail going on for infinity from the end of my gun, letting everyone know exactly where I am. But if you're quick about it, which is not too hard, you can generally fool people in multiplayer.
I've got to do something you're not going to like.
This part...
You just do.
Oh.
I ejected my rampant personality spectrum from the system. If I do that in each of those beams, the copies can overwhelm the composer's shielding.
I have a personal theory as to why Cortana is so different in Halo 5 and leading into Halo Infinite. My theory is along the lines of what just happened, that the one that we encounter in Halo 5, like after Halo 4, isn't the real Cortana, but a fragment of her, one of her rampant fragments. Because even if Cortana was corrupted by the domain and stuff, like they say, I don't see a lot of that stuff actually happening with the real Cortana. It would make more sense if, like, say, a rampant fragment of her were to have gotten into the domain, as they mentioned in Halo 5. And it's already broken and deranged. It's a broken fragment of Cortana. It looks and feels like Cortana, but it's just a part of her that's broken and, I guess, mentally unstable is the best way to put it. So when you put it in a situation like that, no wonder it'll go off the rails and lead to the events of Halo 5 Infinite. That's my personal theory. I don't have a ton of evidence to back it up, but it makes sense, at least when you think about it. Now, to continue our tier list, we're going to rapid fire as well through C tier, just because of how many weapons there are. We also need to go through the enemies and characters here in a sec, anyways, as well. Luckily, those won't take as long. I will throw the rocket launcher in C tier. In other Halo games, I would give the rocket launcher a lot higher rating, but you virtually hardly ever run into it in Halo 4. And when you do, kind of like other Halos that have had that problem, there's virtually no ammo. But the most egregious thing that I think they did with the rocket launcher is they got rid of the stupid tracking feature, the vehicle tracking feature. Because in the previous Halos, in like Halo 3 and 2, you can lock onto vehicles with the rocket launcher, and it made it so nice. I think if they really wanted to make it fair with the tracking, all they could have done is just made it so that it only tracks aircraft. Like, it can't track land vehicles, but it'll track aircraft, like Banshees. I think that would be fair. So I'm gonna give that one a C tier. Next up on C tier, I would give the DMR. I know a lot of people are gonna give me hate for that, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of the DMR in Halo 4. I'm generally on the fence about the DMR in general. Like, I'll use it if I have to, but I'm generally on the fence about the weapon as it is. They really screwed it up in Halo 4. I'm not gonna lie. For one, it feels way too cheap, but also the addition of Bloom makes it so... How do I put this? As I mentioned earlier about the sniper rifle, and how the Bloom is negligent if you've used the rifle enough, it gets to be like that with the DMR. So it makes me wonder, why add Bloom for that weapon if it's negligible? Also, I would argue that usually whenever you have a chance to get a DMR, 9 times out of 10, you blow through the ammo within 5 minutes. So sometimes I wonder, like, why bother picking it up? Especially when there's like a ton of battle rifles and stuff lying around. Oh, I got killed. Because yeah, if there's one DMR there, but there's a couple of battle rifles, I'd rather just take the battle rifle. It won't be quite as accurate or do quite as much damage, but I can generally hold a lot more ammo. Whew. Ow. You need to take cover. Ow. Sentinel fight. Got him. No, they also got me. They shoved my body off. Oh. I fell through. I was about to say, well, there's gonna be nukes dropping over there somewhere. Because I still have that nuclear fanny pack on my back. No scopes. Ow. Ow. Oh, come on. Yes. Woo! Grenade. Hulk grenades still hurt you, but they're useless. I need to continue with this tier list. Next on C tier list is, I would say, the hammer. Hammer's cool. Don't get me wrong. You, like, never run into it in Halo 4. That little weapons room that we ran into a minute ago is, like, one of only maybe 2 or 3 times that I could think of off the top of my head where you actually run into the hammer and get a chance to use it in Halo 4. Now, obviously, you can use it a lot more in multiplayer. And it is still pretty fun, especially in Griffball. I generally do prefer to use the hammer as opposed to the sword in Griffball. But aside from also how rare it is, like, running across it in the campaign, the time to swing it is insane. I'd also say, depending on the enemy you're facing, you may not be guaranteed a kill. Like, for example, these knights. You can hammer a knight, but it may not be a guaranteed kill on the knight. Ah, he killed his friend. Uh-oh. Wait, where'd that watcher go? It, like, disappeared. Let's see. The Carbine, the Covenant Carbine, they kind of nerfed that one as well. That's one of those weapons that I really enjoyed in, like, Halo 2 and 3. But they nerfed it. They really cut down on the damage. On the flip side, though, it is nice being able to spam it. Spam the Carbine, like the olden days. It also doesn't feel quite as accurate as it used to be. So I gotta give it C tier for Carbine.
That's it. It's working.
Right next to it is the light rifle I'm holding. The light rifle is actually really dope. It's one of my favorite Promethean weapons, alongside the, what do you want to call it? Binary rifle. It's really cool how each of the Promethean weapons have different firing modes, per se. Like, this one, it's either a burst fire, like the battle rifle, when you're not using your sights, or if you actually are using your sights, it's more like the DMR. It compresses those 3 rounds down into heavier rounds.
You humans solved the didact.
One of my biggest complaints, though, with it is constantly reloading with the thing. Also, how many shots it can take to take out knights. It is nice that you can take out... Ow. It is nice that you can take out things like crawlers with it real easy. Certain ones like knights are annoying. But it also gets C tier in my opinion because compared to the other rifles and weapons that we've kind of gone over already, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna pick up in multiplayer a battle rifle, an assault rifle, or hell, even a carbine before you pick up a light rifle. Light rifles in multiplayer are more, in Halo 4, were more for, like, either messing with people, or that, like, rare fraction of a percent that actually were good with it. I used it on occasion, I'm not gonna lie, but I virtually never used it in multiplayer. It's only really useful in campaign. But that's partly because you just run into it so much in campaign that you kind of are forced to use it. Let's see. Ooh, try not to pick myself out at the same time. Let's see. Perfect timing though, because the next one on my list is the incineration cannon that we just fired off. Incineration cannon I think is really cool. The whole idea that when you fire it, the individual, like the main explosion splits up into smaller ones. I think that's a really nice feature and sets it apart from the others. But it is overpowered in multiplayer. It is way too overpowered. I would also have it lower on the tier list than the rocket launcher because of the lack of accuracy. It's not as accurate. You're more going for the splash damage, trying to take people out with that. Even direct hits may not be guaranteed kills, kind of like what you guys saw with the Knight. The incineration cannon is still really good. One that we haven't seen in a while, though, is the plasma grenade. Plasma grenade, I think, also deserves to be in C tier. Now, that's another one of those picks that I'm gonna get some hate for. They're diehard fans of the plasma grenade. Now, it's still a really good grenade. They didn't really do much to change the grenade between Halos 3 and 4, or Reach and 4. But kind of like some of the other weapons in the tier list, you don't run into it too much. Funny enough, you actually seem to run into, or at least it feels like this, you seem to run into the frag grenade a bit more in the campaign, even when you're going through like Promethean levels and stuff. Somehow I'm still able to find frag grenades. And I'll find a million pulse grenades, obviously, but I have a tricky time finding plasmas. Oh, this suppressor is garbage. Another weapon that is, I think, a little tricky to find, except for sniper missions in Halo 4, is the beam rifle. Beam rifle still is pretty, it's not quite as satisfying to get kills with it as it used to be. For one, they really made it so that it overheats like super quickly. There used to be you could fire a lot more shots with the beam rifle before it would actually overheat, but now in Halo 4, when you use the beam rifle, it feels like you can only fire a couple shots before it overheats. And then also, kind of like some of our other weapons as well, usually whenever you run into it, you have the option of either having that, or a sniper rifle, or a battle rifle. And it's usually best to just grab the battle rifle and the actual sniper rifle. So, the fact that you've pretty much always got alternatives to it is another deterrent, and why I would throw it in C tier. Oh my gosh, can't get a breath. I need cover. That kind of ends off C tier with our weapons. The rest of the tiers are pretty small by comparison, like way smaller. Now, starting off, I'm just looking for a gun. Kicking off B tier is the Spartan Laser. I've given it higher rankings in previous Halos because of how awesome the Spartan Laser is. You only run into it like once in Halo 4. I'm sorry, but it kind of sucks in Halo 4. I'm sorry to say it. I actually liked the Spartan Laser. That's one of the things that kills me about it, is I wish they incorporated it more into this. Because there are a few times where I feel like it would have been very useful to have a Spartan Laser. Or it would have felt right as well. Come on, damn it. There we go. But yeah, just the fact that you pretty much never run into it in Halo 4, and even in multiplayer, you don't ever, from what I remember of Halo 4, you didn't really run into it. So, that one gets an automatic D tier. Another one that never virtually shows up or is ever used, that goes in D tier as well, is the sticky detonator. I think it was a cool concept, adding the sticky detonator, but it just didn't fit. Didn't really fit. Kind of felt out of place. That was more one of those weapons that you would use with your buddies when you're playing multiplayer and you're trying to troll people. Aside from that, even in campaign, you only run into it like twice. There's only like 2 occasions. I would also give it a D tier because of how little damage each of the freaking grenades does. They're... Ooh! Yeah, each of the little nades from the sticky detonator are pretty crap. Haha, use my sentinel or my sentry as a distraction. That's one of my favorite strategies. I love having the sentry. It's so good. Yes, we killed him. Now, we already went over the rockets and the incineration cannon, but I think the bottom of the tier list when it comes to those kind of weapons has to be the fuel rod. Fuel rod, the individual damage of each one doesn't do much. It's kind of cool how it bounces off surfaces, but that's a good way to also accidentally kill yourself because of how insane the splash damage is. So that one gets a D tier, plus you never see it. No! My question is, how does he get that chip in Halo 5 and Infinite, if that happened? I've never been able to piece that part together. If you guys have any ideas, let me know down below. But also, the next weapon, perfect. In D tier, bolt shot. Its alternate fire is cool, how it's almost like a little shotgun blast. It drains all your ammo in the clip when you do it, but it is pretty cool. It's very, 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 very situational ever picking that thing up. Usually I would only pick up the, what do you want to call it, the bolt shot. If I have no other options, even then, I'm usually willing to just go around and scavenge. Try and find ammo and guns that way. As opposed to dealing with how bad it is. Although it's not the worst weapon in the game by far. So I'll give it that. It barely squeaks out of F tier. Although, to start off F tier, I would have to start with Storm Rifle. What were they thinking? Every time they tried to get rid of the Plasma Rifle and replace this stupid thing, it's always turned out bad. Just give us back the OG Plasma Rifle, for crying out loud. It's ridiculous. Here, I'm just kind of exploring. I just want to see if there's any ammo or anything. Also, I think it's really cool. This is something that they got rid of, now that I think about it, that I wish that they had kept. Is when you press the back button, you can see like your kills and deaths, but also information on your various equipment. Here, we're just gonna run through the weapons tier list real fast. The rest of it, there's only a couple left. The suppressor, I would honestly take over the storm rifle, hands down, but it is still super, super bad. They really fixed it in Halo 5. I'll give them that, but in Halo 4, it is trash. But not as bad as the concussion rifle. You only really run into that like a handful of times as well, like some of the other weapons. But it's one of those weapons where I would literally pick up anything but. The concussion rifle feels like a cheap way of trying to replace the brute shot. It doesn't really fit. I don't see the elites going around with weapons like that, for one. Also, the amount of damage it does is so low. It's not as bad as some other weapons that Halo has come out with in general, but holy crap, it's towards the bottom if I were to give an overall tier list of every weapon in all of Halo. But for Halo 4 though, what gets the special F minus tier is definitely the pulse nade. This is literally, this next cutscene is the only time that the pulse nade is actually useful in Halo 4, I swear. The thing just sucks. Probably gonna skip the tier list on, well, no. We can go over the last two on enemies and characters in just a second while I get my final thoughts.
You persist too long after your own defeat. So misguided. Humanity's imprisonment is a kindness.
In that case, you won't mind it if we return the favor.
Your compassion for mankind is misplaced.
I'm not doing this for mankind.
I've always wanted to know how the Didact is able to force choke Chief like that. How it seems like he can somehow use the Force in Halo 4. I always found that weird. So just quick rundown of enemies. S tier, I give the Knights. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that one, but I actually really like the Knights. They're really cool enemies, and they screwed them up in Halo 5. Grunts get A tier. They're always a win. Especially the Suicide Grunts. They're funny. Elites and Hunters get B tier. You don't run into Hunters often, but they're always a win. And then the Elites as well. They did a good job with the Elites in Halo 4. They're still fun to fight. I just wish that they incorporated both of those more. Crawlers kind of suck. They're cool in large numbers, and they're an alright idea when it comes to, like, the foot soldiers of the Prometheans. Kind of makes sense that they added the soldiers in Halo 5, but I think they should have just kept it with the crawlers. Jackal snipers you don't really run into in Halo 4, but Jackals in general get D tier. Jackals are just annoying as hell, as always, especially with their shields. Usually gotta waste ammo. And then lastly, on the enemies, I would give the Watchers. They're the most annoying out of all of them. They don't really hurt you much, and they just annoy you by shielding enemies and throwing your nades back. Alright, I'll shut up for the cutscene.
Cortana, do you read? Cortana, come in. How?
Oh, I'm the strangest thing you've seen all day?
But if we're here,
It worked. You did it. Just like you always do.
so how do we get out of here?
I'm not coming with you this time.
What?
Most of me is down there. I only held enough back to get you off the ship.
No. That's not... We go together.
It's already done.
I am not leaving you here.
John. I've waited so long to do that.
It was my job to take care of you.
We were supposed to take care of each other. And we did.
Cortana, please. Wait.
Welcome home, John.
I still remember the first time I ever watched this cutscene. Whew. I almost cried. I'm not gonna lie, my eyes were watery. Just after all those years of going through Halo, and the story of Halo 4 does make sense, and it is fitting. I think they did a really good job at it. And honestly, when it comes to the tier list of characters, Cortana gets S tier for me. Aside from Halo 2, I think this is the best version of Cortana that we've had. We really get to see so many different sides of her in Halo 4. And that ending as well, it's like, oh my gosh, the build up to it too. Throughout the whole game, seeing her slowly deteriorate, it just eats you up on the inside. But how they handled it, I think they handled it phenomenally well. Like, if you're gonna kill off Cortana of all characters, I think that was honestly probably the best way to do it, like how they did it. They gradually ease you into it so it's not as, like, it doesn't hit you as hard in the end, but it still hits hard because it's an emotional moment. They did a good job on the lines. I know a lot of people say that she should have, like, maybe kissed him or something like that. I think maybe at most she should have given him maybe like a hug or maybe a peck on the visor. But that moment though, where she touches his armor, I think it's still super appropriate, because I think if they went any further, it would be kind of pushing it. But Steve Downes, I give him an A tier here, playing Chief. Like, Chief gets A tier for Halo 4, because he doesn't have as many memorable lines as in the other Halos, which is why I give him an A tier instead of S. But obviously Chief never gets below an A tier, but Steve Downes did such a good job with the emotional moments in Halo 4. This is one of the first times in a Halo game to where we really started exploring the human side of Chief. And I think Chief barely squeaks by from S tier and gets A tier as well because of how they wrote him in Halo 4. I think they could have done more during those emotional moments, because there were times to where he was talking with Cortana, and Cortana would say something like really profound or insane, but he would barely give a reply. I know that's for us to kind of fill in the blanks, but at the same time, it's like, it felt like Chief should have said something. Like, for example, when they were on the Infinity for the mission composer at the beginning, when she says, at the end of this, find out which one of us is the machine. He doesn't even really say anything, and I think they could have put some good dialogue there. Around that time, though, is when me and everyone else falls in love with the character Lasky. Lasky gets B tier. He doesn't, like, he plays a good role in the Halo 4, and it's nice to see his progression, but you don't really see him too much, and he, honestly, out of all the side characters, he's probably the one that, like, out of all the human side characters, he's the only one that really matters much aside from Chief and Cortana. But he's really cool. He gets B tier for me. The Didact, I would say, though, gets C tier. It's a cool idea, adding the Didact, but he was so full of himself. It's nice that he's speaking in almost like Old English. It kind of feels more old-fashioned. It's not quite Old English, but it's more old-fashioned way of speaking. But I think that some of the Didact's actions were pretty dumb. Like, so he was almost self-sabotaging. There were so many times to where he would run away or make a play, and you're like, why? Like with the particle cannons, for example, so Infinity can't leave. What does he care? He regained control of Requiem. What does he care? One ship versus an entire shield world? Yeah. Like, he's gonna actually take that as a credible threat. It would have been different, though, beforehand. Before that moment, when he still hadn't had control of Requiem, but once he got control of it, at that point, it's like, why are you bothering with things like these particle cannons and whatnot? Why are you even bothering with us? Just stick with your plan, with how he did towards the end, and just bum rush to Earth. It's like, dude, you've got nothing to worry about, especially with the Mantle's approach. That ship is huge. Speaking of other human side characters, though, as mentioned previously, the rest of them get D's and F's, honestly. Halsey, she gets a D. I actually really like Dr. Halsey. Granted, the cutscene at the very beginning of the game is the only time that we really run into her. They did a really good job, not only of, like, oh hell, her appearance. It looks a lot better, for example, than any of the other Halos. She looks better in Halo 4 than she does in either Reach or 5. Like, they really did a good job at the motion capture and animation and things like that. And her story at the very beginning really gets you hyped. But aside from that, she isn't really featured in the campaign. Kind of similar to that is Sarah Palmer. She does make an appearance at one point. She's supposed to be important for the multiplayer because she's basically in charge of all the Spartan 4s, and in multiplayer you're a Spartan 4. And like I think she's also your announcer, I'm not sure. But either way, that's how she plays into the story. She's in charge of all the Spartans on board Infinity and trains them. But aside from that, her character is very uninteresting, and her lines with Chief in the game were pretty dumb. Like, I expected you to be taller? What is that? It's also like, show a little bit more respect. It's like, it's Master Chief, for crying out loud. It's like, everyone in the UNSC knows of his exploits at this point. And he's a legend. And especially if everyone's thought he's been dead for years, it's like, that's your first reaction to seeing him? It's not, holy shit, Master Chief's alive, or even just the respect, because he's also her commanding officer, technically. He's higher ranking, so she didn't even show that. But at least Palmer is more interesting than, say, some of the other characters that they introduce later on into Halo, like in Halo 5. But when it comes to characters in Halo 4, the one that definitely gets the short end of the stick, and I think everyone agrees with me on this one, that the worst character in Halo 4 has to be Del Rio. He gets F tier. Like, aside from creating extra contention within the story, he doesn't really fit, especially since they end up getting rid of him anyways by the end, and he's just replaced with Lasky as, Lasky was his first officer, and then he becomes captain. Also, I think that a lot of the moments with Del Rio, I said this in a previous video, I think they could have been rearranged differently. I think if they were to have rearranged our interactions with Del Rio, a lot of it would have made more sense. Like, say, Cortana acting up, and him then jumping the gun to taking her. Because before that, there wasn't really much conflict between him and Chief. A lot of that was afterwards, but if they were to have shoved a lot of that conflict between Chief, Cortana, Del Rio, etc., before that moment, it would have made us feel more for Del Rio in that way, and made us actually understand why he's like, give me that chip, we're decommissioning Cortana, because at that point you would have had a reason. It's like all these problems left and right, and then she confronts him and is like, you guys aren't leaving the planet. At that point it would be justified, but with how they arranged everything, it doesn't fit. So Del Rio gets an F tier for me. He's definitely one of the worst characters in all of Halo 2. Like, half the time he's just a dick for no reason. And thank goodness for Lasky for watching our back, because honestly, it would have sucked going through a Halo campaign and not having hardly any good human characters aside from Chief. So at least we've got that. Overall, I don't think Halo 4 deserves as harsh of... Before we get into the final cutscene, the legendary one, I just want to give my final thoughts on the game overall, though. I don't think Halo 4 deserved as much criticism as it got. Partly because 343 was relatively new, and they were trying to take the reins of one of the greatest game series of all time, one of the most successful ones at that. So that's already a huge undertaking as is. Like, if you even look at, even Bungie had problems with things like that, like the jump from Halo 3 to ODST and Reach, and trying to constantly improve on things and make it better, but also keep up those sales. It's just a monumental task. But I think overall they did a good job with it. And even back in the day when it first came out, I thought that Halo 4 was a good game. Especially looking back on it compared to, like, say, Halo 5, it's like, holy crap. Like, it's really made people reevaluate their opinions. One of my biggest downsides, though, in Halo 4, I would say my two biggest ones, aside from the stuff that we've already covered in this episode and previous episodes, I would have to say my biggest gripes with Halo 4 would be, for one, the lack of the Halo theme. Don't get me wrong, the Halo 4 soundtrack is one of the best, and out of all of the ones that I've gone through and just constantly listened to in my free time, Halo 4 is one of the ones I've listened to the most. It's got some of the greatest music. But they forgot the freaking Halo theme. They broke the cardinal rule of music in Halo. Granted, I'm glad that Halo 5 brought it back, but that was... I don't know how they messed that up. My only other big complaint with Halo 4, aside from, say, things like the story and whatnot that we've already covered, is how over-reliant you end up becoming on precision weapons. Precision is the key in Halo 4. If you've played enough of Halo 4, it doesn't affect you as much as if you were just starting out, but you will notice, if you're just getting into Halo 4, how, compared to the other Halos, most of the time you're going to be trying to keep your distance from enemies. Because similar to Halo 2, the time to kill, especially with things like melees, is super, super low, some of the lowest in Halo. So you don't really want to get into those super close quarters battles, especially on, like, Legendary, for example. You guys saw me whenever I would get into those close quarters battles, usually I'd end up getting ganked and get killed. But overall, I would say it's a good game. It's been super fun going through and revisiting all these Halos, especially Halo 4, because again, that one's one of my favorites. And here soon, we'll have to go through like Reach on Legendary as well. That one's going to be a pain, honestly, because I have a harder time with Reach on Legendary than 3 or 4, actually even 2. A lot of people hate 2 on Legendary, but I don't know if that one's because I've just played too much Halo 2, but anyways, before I keep rambling on, I just want to give a shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so very much for all the love and support that you guys have been showing. Also, I know you guys have really enjoyed these kind of tier list episodes, and if you guys ended up missing out on any of our previous streams for Halo, want some more multiplayer content, or want to check out those tier list episodes for like Halo 2 and 3, go ahead and go check out the playlist right down below for all my Master Chief Collection content. And come join me next Tuesday. We're going to be going live again at noon Pacific, and we should be starting up Reach. Next time in general, though, that we're going to be hopping on, we're going to be on, let's see, this Thursday. We're going to be going through and completing the next level on modded zombies. We're going through all the classic World at War maps, but they're heavily, heavily modded. Heavily modded. And it's been hilarious. You guys seem to enjoy that one as well. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into the final cutscene. And if you guys ended up liking this video, feel free to hit that like and sub down below. Alright, I'll go ahead and shut up.
Actual, Pelican 9-6er. We found him. Mind if I join you?
Of course not, sir.
At ease, Chief. Feels kinda odd for you to call me sir. Beautiful, isn't she? I don't get to see her often enough. I grew up in New Harmony. Attended Corbulo Military Academy. Never saw Earth in person until I was an adult, but I still think of her as home. You don't talk much, do you? Chief, I won't pretend to know how you feel. I mean, I've lost people I care about, but never anything like you're going through.
Our duty as soldiers is to protect humanity, whatever the cost.
You say that like soldiers and humanity are two different things. I mean, soldiers aren't machines. We're just people. I'll let you have the deck to yourself.
She said that to me once. About being a machine.
And that's what I was saying earlier, of how this would have been a perfect setup for Halo 5, of just him exploring what it means to be human. Now we can get into the legendary cutscene. Ooh. Come on, give it to me. Yes. Let's go. Oh, another Halo down on legendary. Let's fucking go.
In this hour
Let's get
of
hypes.
victory, we taste only defeat. I ask why. We are forerunners, guardians of all that exists. The roots of the galaxy have grown deep under our careful tending. Where there is life, the wisdom of our countless generations has saturated the soil. Our strength is a luminous sun towards which all intelligence blossoms, and the impervious shelter beneath which it has prospered. I stand before you, accused of the sin of ensuring Forerunner ascendancy, of attempting to save us from this fate where we are forced to recede. Humanity stands as the greatest threat in the galaxy. Refusing to eradicate them is a fool's gambit. We squander eons in the darkness, while they seize our triumphs for their own. The mantle of responsibility for all things belongs to Forerunners alone. Think of my acts as you will, but do not doubt the reality. The reclamation has already begun, and we are hopeless to stop it.
Oh, cool thing. Yeah, I wish they did something more for the legendary cutscene, if we're being honest. Because you get to see that cutscene no matter what, but honestly, they should have done more than just let you see Chief's eyes. Although I still remember the first time me and everyone else saw that, like when Halo 4 came out, and it was like, oh shit! Even though it's just a fraction of Chief's face, you're just like, holy shit, we get to see part of Chief's face. Also, it's like, damn, no wonder he never takes off his helmet. Look at those eyes. You can tell he's just so used to having that helmet on. Alright. Whew. So that wraps things up for today. Yeah, I already kind of gave my final thoughts on the game. Can't really think of much else to talk about. Again, love you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your game. I can't fucking talk right now, I swear. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your days. Have a great time. Stay safe out there. The weather is super hot out. Like, oh my gosh, stay hydrated. Stay hydrated, people. I don't want to hear any of you guys passing out from heat stroke. Alright. I will catch you beautiful sons of guns next time. It's your boy Mac Daddy signing out. Peace out, Girl Scouts.